Hi there. Today I'm going to build a receiver box. Now you could use any of the different receivers out there that'll work with many of the different controllers, with the Falcons, Experience Lights, the Culp. They all have the potential to use receivers, and I have two of them here. I have a Falcon receiver and I have an Experience Lights receiver. In addition to that, what I do on all my receiver boxes is I leave a couple of power injection ports. And what I have today for that is I have from J-Boards a power distribution board. This is just 4 outputs. You can also have an 8-port one from as well, but today I will be using the 4-port one. And you could also get your receiver boards from Falcon or your power injection boards from Falcon, and there's several other manufacturers as well. So let's get going with this build. Before we get into build, I thought I'd walk through a completed receiver box. So I'll open it up and you can see everything is easily accessible. You'll see my Experience Light receiver. You'll see the J-Boards power injection board that's fused. Underneath that you see the power supply. You see 2 pass-throughs for Ethernet connectors. And on the left side is right now on this particular build, that's where I have the outputs for the pixels. And on the right side is where I had the power injection. And you also notice on the board that I only have 2 wires connected because I'm going to cut off the data line. All right, on the front of it here, you have the Ethernet pass-through connectors as well as the power cord coming through. And you will again notice that I am using cutting boards, all cut to size. I have some posts here, which are just like 15 millimeter long M4 screws. And it's got a couple nuts on the front and back to lock it in place. What I'm going to do first, before I start drilling any holes in any plastic cutting board, is I'm going to make myself a template. There are some holes in the bottom of the power supply, which I'm going to use to mount it to a piece of plastic. So I'm just going to take a pencil, trace it out, so I can cut it out. You see I can set it right in the corner. And I'm just going to cut out that piece of paper, then line it up in the back. And then these holes here, 1, 2, 3, 4 is what I'm going to mark on the paper so I know where to drill it in my plastic. Now that I've cut out my piece of paper here, line it on the back of the power supply. And I'm going to feel for where there's a hole right there. There you go, mark, plug it through. There's the second one. Let's go back and find the third. There it is. And just one more. Perfect. Now I'm going to take my newly made template and mark the holes for the power supply. Relatively simple operation. Make sure you're getting down to the plastic and not just drawing on the paper. There we go. All 4 positions marked. That one's a little light. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to drill some holes. All right, so now I'm going to take my drill with a 32nd inch drill bit and drill the holes through the plastic. There we go. So our M4 screws should go through that just nicely. And that will be used to screw into the power supply. All right, so the next thing I've done is I've taken my top piece of plastic, which is where the receiver and the power distribution boards will be set. And I line it up with the back over the top of the holes I just made for the power supply. And I'm going to drill 4 holes in the corner. These are going to be used for M4 by 50 millimeters or 60 millimeter holes. And you see I'm going outside the perimeter of the power supply. All right, so those are all perfectly lined up. I'm going to attach the power supply to the back of the cutting board / piece of plastic. I'm using M4 screws. These ones are 10 millimeters long. There we go. Next step, I'm going to go here now. Let's put our 50 millimeter long screws in place. What I've done now is I've measured the center of the fan hole, of the fan off the edges here. And that determines 2 inches down and 2 inches across. I'm going to go take my hole saw and I'm going to cut that hole for the fan. Alright, so I've lined a piece of plastic up with my 2-inch hole saw. Let's cut that hole. Hole's cut. All set for the fan. Now I'm going to set the position of both my boards. First I'm going to do the receiver. And I'm going to use the Experience Light one. There we go. And I'm going to take an M4, 16 millimeters long. Put it right over that so I keep the positioning accurate. Do this one here. Just nice and slow, gentle. Got that one through. Take the next one. And now this one only has 3, so now I'm going to do the last one. I'm going to do these carefully so you don't want to damage the board. Alright, so now I have all 3 holes for receiver card. Now I'm going to do my power distribution board. Same method as with the receiver. Alright, that one's drilled through. Now I'm using M3 screws. These J boards use a little smaller holes. It's not a problem, just a little different size drill bit. Okay, all my holes are in place for my boards. I'm going to install my receiver on the board. And what I use for standoffs is just refrigerator tubing. Got my gloves on because I am using a knife that's sharp, and I just cut some small slivers. I mean, this stuff is really inexpensive and it'll last you forever. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Take off my gloves now since I'm done with the knife. I'm going to put these on. Alright. I'm going to set my receiver over the studs, and I'm going to get my M4 nuts. So now I have my socket. It's a 7 millimeter, and I'm just going to put it on there and just tighten it just a little bit. Not too tight, just enough to keep it in place. There we go. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the power distribution board. Now I'm taking some M4 nuts and put them at roughly the same distance on our little studs there. Going to slide over the holes. Alright, now I'll take M4 nuts here and put them on top to lock it in place. Okay, it's all in position. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wire this thing up. It's all kind of self-contained here, and I'll be able to set it into the box. So for the wiring, I'm going to use 12 gauge wire, connecting the DC power to the receiver card as well as to my power distribution. The wires for the power distribution will go in the gap between the 2 different pieces of plastic and the power supply and reach around to go to that position right there. All right, let's do the V+. The red wire, just unscrew that there and tighten it in place. And then I'm going to reach it up right that one. Just mark the 12 volt, which would be for the positive line. Just slide that in position. And then again, tighten it on there. All right, so I'll repeat that for the black wire. For this one, I've taken I've cut an amply long piece of wire. I stripped the end, slide it in the power supply, tighten it in place, and now I'm going to take the wire and feed it underneath. And now I'm going to put it in position, and I'm going to cut it to size. I just have an extra inch or so on there. Strip it off. All right, now pay attention to where this is going. This is the black wire, so it goes for V minus. Instead of marked ground, these boards are marked V minus and V plus. All means the same thing. There we go. That one's set in place. Now I just got to do it for the red wire. Now that I've wired up the power distribution board and the receiver and the power supply, I'll just slide it in the box here. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 3 holes in the front, 2 for the Ethernet and 1 for power. And then it'll be 4 on each side. One, the right-hand side will be for the power injection ports, and the one on the left will be for the pixel outputs. It's time to drill the holes for all the connectors. We have a PJ7, PJ9, and an Ethernet pass-through. This one here is for the power cord. These are all for the X-Connect connectors, and that is one of them for the Ethernet pass-through. And I've taken painter's tape so I get a nice clean cut, as well as I can mark the position. The position on the side here, I'm 1 inch from the edge of this line, 2 inches of this line, and I'm 1 inch from the bottom for that drill point, and another inch up. So I got a pattern here for 4. It's the exact same thing on the opposite side. Now let's go to the very end. Okay, you will see here, I'm 1 inch from this edge, 1.5 inches, 3 inches, 4.5. And again, I'm drilling 1 inch up. It's hard to see the points where I've marked for drilling the holes. So let's get this thing set up to drill the holes with my hand drill with the stepper bit. Set I pre-marked all the holes. I got my PJ7 connector. This is the side for the X connectors. And I'm just going to take this drill bit, hit it on there, and go nice and slow. I'm going to stop. See if I'm the right size. I'm a little too small. And just go a little bit further because I was really close. Just went one more step on that hole. There we go. Fits in perfect. Now let's do the other 4. Now I've completed both sides for the PG7 connectors. Now I'm going to do the PG9 and the Ethernet. So I have a PG9 here. That's going to go on the right because that's where it lines up with the power supply. Power connections. This is the exact same process as with the X-Connect parts. It's a little bit bigger hole, so I know that one's not big enough by inspection. Stop there. Let's see if that's the right size. Oh, almost. Just a hair too big. A little bit more. There we go. I bet that's it there. Perfect. Next, I'm going to take the nut off the bottom of the Ethernet pass-through here. It's a little too small. Try that size now. Perfect. All right, now I just have to repeat that for the hole, and then we're ready to go. Now to take the PG7s. Well, first of all, I took the tape off. Holes are nice and clean. I'm going to take the PG7 connectors and install them. Just slide it through, and the nut there. And you just repeat this all the way around for all your different connectors. So I've taken the power cord and run it through the PG9 connector, tighten it down, and now I have my green, my white, and my black wires. Black being the load, white being neutral, and green being ground. So right, just to check the wires, they're all locked in place. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my X connectors It'll be the female on this side and male on the opposite. Alright, so now I'm going to wire in the X connects the female end, which is the pixel outputs. I loosen up the nut on the PG7 connectors, slide it through. And since this is an experience board, I'm just going to take my little screwdriver, just like I did on my video for the controller build. It's the same thing here. A little screwdriver. First one is G for ground on black. That's a black wire here. There, it's in there well. The middle one says D1 for the output 1. Push it down. I place it's in position. And now for the red line, which is the V plus. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4. All be lined up nice and neat. I'm also going to label each one of the cables on the in and outlet. So here's my wire labeler. I'm using a self-laminating label. These are really convenient. And so I just got the number 1. I'm going to print it. Cut it off. And now I'm going to put it on my wire here, because this one's connected to the number 1 output. Hooking things up to my system, to my controller and my show. I'm not guessing which wire's doing what. I might also put another number depending on where I put it in my show. If it's like number 17, it'll be labeled appropriately with the one and the other. So that way I can tie to the board directly, as well as what the output is on the actual controller. So I'm not going to film the rest of them. I'm just going to do it all here for this. I completed wiring in the pixel outputs, 1, 2, 3, 4, all labeled. Next step is I'm going to take the Ethernet cable, make a custom one that'll go in the in and the out on the Experience receiver board. With the Experience receivers, they have a specific in and out so they can detect where they are in the chain. So it automatically configures itself. So let's make those cables. So I make my own custom Ethernet cable so they get the right size when I'm building my control boxes. I use these pass-through Ethernet connectors. That makes it easier, in my opinion, to wire them up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off the casing here. And this Klein tool has a spot just for that. I'm just going to rotate it around. It scores it, and then I just back break it free and exposes the wires. Now there's a little bit of a nylon piece of string that is used to strip the cable if you need to cut off bigger pieces. And on this Klein tool, it's got the color codes. And I always use the top one. So I'm going to find the brown and white pair. And unravel it. Brown's first, and brown and white. Next is the green. So I'm going to unravel the green and white pair. So I go with the green and put it next to the brown and white. And I'm going to put that green and white off to the side next to the blue and white. And this goes back and forth between stripe, solid, stripe, solid. So this is the blue and white. And then the blue. And then the green and white. And then finally the orange and white. So the orange goes right up against stripe green and white. And all right, so let's kind of smush that together here. I'm going to double check that we're going back and forth. Got the right color order. That brown and white, and the brown swapped on me. Let's get that back. Okay. I check it several times so I don't end up with a bad connection. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, there's a little cutting tool here. And cut it so I have a nice clean straight. Now I'm going to take the connector and pass it through. All right, so now I triple check it to make sure I got the right order. Brown, brown and white, green, blue and white, blue, green and white, orange, orange and white. Perfect. Now I stick it in the tool, set it free. All right, there we go. My own custom-made piece. Now it's time to test it to make sure I've made a good cable. So I'm going to stick it in here, and here, and I'm going to look for the lights that all correspond to the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Good connection. The numbers all line up straight across from each. So that is a good cable. So for my custom-made Ethernet cables, I've already put the in cable in. Now I'm going to the out. I'm going to feed it in underneath the board. I'm going to lift it up so I get it out the other side. Here I'm going to plug it into the receiver board. And now I'm going to plug it in to the port going to the outside. So there you go. Ethernet cables are all done. Labeled on both ends of the wires. I also will label on the outside of the box. So if you watch my other videos, you know I like to configure my controllers for power injection. So I use the male in for power injection, the female in for the pixel output. This way I can connect into the backside. So I'm going to take my X-Connect cable. I'm going to push it in the very bottom right one here. Slide it in. This will be number 1 right here on my J board. It's output 1. I'm going to clip off the data line because I don't need it because it's only going to be used for power. All right. So I've opened it up, and now I'm going to take the red and the black. Put it in place, and I'm going to start tightening it up. So always do a pull test on all your connections. Make sure there's good connections. There we go. So I'm going to pull it tight. So I now have a completed box. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in so we can go test it. I've hooked up 400 pixels to it. I just plugged it in. There we go. We're lighting up. The receiver card is green. The power distribution box, all 4 of the LEDs are on, indicating that they have power. Now let's go down here and find the test button. There it is. I'm going to hold it down. Click. All right, there we go. 400 pixels, 1 on each output, all going through their color cycle. Perfecto. We have a working receiver box that is waterproof, that closes up nice and easy. And it's ready for use in my show. Well, I hope this helps somebody out there. You guys have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.